Hello, and welcome to another episode of Payne's Perspective. I am going to talk today about the UK economy. So, the UK economy, as you've all probably noticed, it is absolutely screwed, and we are all being charged out of our arseholes for basic things. So let's look at what happened to the UK. So, back when the NHS was created, back when pensions were created, basically what our government did was they made all these promises to help young mothers, to help elderly men when they retire, and they basically set themselves a trap. So the way it worked before the NHS and before pensions was what you'd do is you'd have more children. You'd have more children, and then you'd expect a few of those to die. That was just the fact of the matter. So before the NHS, you'd have, say, 8, 9 children, expect a few of them to die, and then you've set yourself up for 3 or 4 kids that can carry on your family name, carry on your bloodline. And that's just the way it was. And then the NHS came along and women started giving birth, and those children started receiving care, and not free, but NHS care. So young mothers wouldn't have to pay for that straight away. They would pay for it over many years, and everyone would pay for it, for a growing economy and more people, basically. And it was a good thing. It was a very good thing, obviously, because fewer people were dying. It's good. And then another thing that the government introduced was pensions, the national insurance, and that was for men who would at that time just go out to work and provide for their families. And what the government said was, when you get to an age, you would be able to retire, have money left over, and that would be that. You could continue to live and have money whilst not working at an elderly age, providing you pay an X amount over so many years, which is throughout life, basically. However, what they didn't take into consideration is, once they gave people these things, one, more people would survive, which would cost a hell of a lot more money. In the long run, it's good, because more people to pay more taxes equals more money again. But straight off the mark, absolutely disastrous, because it's costing so much to keep people alive, and there's more of them, which is now known as the boomer generation. That's essentially why they're the boomer generation, because they had more children that survived. The population of England just shot up, because, again, people were having 9 or 10 children, and now they were living rather than half of them dying. What also happened was men basically were living longer too, because they then had a pension to fall back on. Once they gave up work, they didn't have to work themselves to death anymore. They would work to an age and then they could retire, get themselves back in shape if they decided to, get out of those shitty conditions that they were working in. And so they would live longer. And so even today, the pension is only designed to benefit you for 7 years. So if you retire and you live less than 7 years on your retirement fund, you're of a benefit to the country, because you're not claiming all that money back that's been set aside for you through your pension. And so the government will basically just take that, and that's theirs. If you live longer than 7 years, the government is fucked, basically, because you've taken all that money back. I mean, don't get me wrong, they've taken their taxes and everything on top of that, but it's still not enough, because the government got itself into a deficit that was never addressed, ever. So you fast forward 100 years, which brings us to now. Like I said, it's never been addressed. So the pension is still designed to last somebody 7 years, even though they're living much longer. There are obviously things that the government has done these days that are just absolutely ridiculous, but they have to really to try and keep the country afloat. But it's not working. It's the country has been for a very long time. Okay. So yeah, we're at a point now where you can actually look this up. It's, you know, going to be a lot of people out there that can say to me, you're talking nonsense. You can look this up for yourself. Quite a reliable source is nationaldebtclock.co.uk. And our current debt at the moment is at 2,763,852,170,000, and it just keeps going up because we've got a runaway deficit. We've got a deficit now. So we, as a country, we don't actually produce anything anymore because everything that used to produce money has been sold off. So Stonehenge, Royal Mail, you know, anything like that, anything that was worth money back in the day. I think even like Tower Bridge and London Bridge, owned by other countries now, because the UK government needs that money then to get by. And obviously now we've sold everything. There's nothing left. And so we're just screwed, and that's that. So yeah, so that's our debt at the moment. That is 2,763,852,400,000, and it just keeps going up. So you can actually see there, that's the national debt of the UK, and that just continues to go up. It goes up at a rate of £5,170 per second. So for every second that goes by during the day, your debt goes up by £5,170. Gutted. So what that means for every citizen of the UK is they owe, the second they're born, they owe £44,391. Good stuff. That doesn't take into consideration people that are disabled, that can't work, people that just won't work and will be on benefits their whole life, or just having children all their life. The elderly that exist now that obviously aren't working, all of that has to be taken into consideration. And once you do take that into consideration, then the debt of every taxpayer that can pay tax is £76,352. So by me just being here living without owning anything, I owe £76,352 just for being born. So that was the state of the UK, and it has been the state of the UK for the past 100 years, and it's never been addressed. No politician would ever want to get up on a stand and say, right, I'm going to cut back everything, you're going to pay more taxes because of the money we borrowed and taxed from unborn children and from youngsters, basically. No politician would ever get up on a podium and say that. They would be booed, hissed, and just thrown into the rubbish. And that's how it's gone. So they make promises, they break promises, and all they do is they just find new ways to tax you. Now, a big one for me was when David Cameron was in power. What he did is he said that he was going to improve every GP surgery throughout the UK. And I can remember when he came into power, my local GP surgery did actually get a full refurbishment, and it was brilliant. It was lovely. Yeah. So he did a good job, right? Wrong. What he did is when he knew his term was ending, and everyone was saying, wow, what a great job. You know, my GP surgery is lovely. He shut down thousands upon thousands of them. And back where I used to live, my local GP surgery was one of them that got shut down. So again, it's just politicians lying to you, and they don't give a heck what happens once they leave that office. So long as they look good when they're in office, that's all that matters. So David Cameron, I absolutely despised the guy. And his two main things were GP surgeries, which he completely screwed over. Because there are far fewer of them now than what there were back then. And another thing that he said he was going to do is that he was going to make the UK more entrepreneurial. Again, on paper, he was very successful. He did that. Go and look it up. Go ahead. Go and look it up. David Cameron, he made the country more entrepreneurial. And I actually fell into his trap. So what he did is he basically made conditions for people on site so bad that more people just said, you know what, screw this. That you had traders all over the place, electricians, plumbers, carpenters, painters, decorators, everything. A load of them just said, you know what, I'm going self-employed because this is ridiculous. That I'm getting taxed through my arse here, and I'm not doing this. So that's what happened. And I was one of these people that fell into that trap. When David Cameron left office, I did start up my own company. I was working for myself for about 5 years, wasn't really earning as much as what I should do, again, because David Cameron screwed it up for everyone, or all the traders anyway. And, he screwed it up for everyone, really. GP surgery's gone, blah, blah, blah. And it's just carried on like that. So without anything else happening, the UK was screwed. Then you put on top of that the pandemic. I mean, everyone knows what's happened there. We basically weren't working for a long period of time, and you can't do that for free because obviously we were still using energy, still using subscription services, still using everything. And this is what I live with. Hey, baby.
Hey.
You all right?
I'm okay.
How's Benji doing?
Good.
How are your eyes? So what was I saying? Okay, so that's basically what the UK was like a few years back. Now, because we're a very small country, like I said, we don't produce anything anymore. We're a dead country, really. That's it. We're not a rich country anymore. We don't have any influence over over other countries anymore. Obviously, Britain used to rule something like the height of its empire, like 75% of the world or something. Not anymore. Everyone's got their independence now. India's got their independence. America's got their independence. Just everyone got their independence basically. But again, because England is a failing empire. It has failed. It is a failed empire. And yeah, that brings us to this day. Blah blah blah. Sorry, I'm a bit thrown off because of all of that. So the only way that we can keep companies coming back to England for different things, in terms of giving jobs and to British citizens, the only way that we can keep them coming back is by saying to them, okay, well, what we'll do is we'll tax our citizens more, and then you don't have to pay as much tax when you bring those jobs into our country. And it's basically backhanded deals. And that's the way it works. It's not really a secret. If you have a little bit of common sense, then you know why these companies keep bringing their business to England. You know why taxes are going up and services are going down, and it's just very obvious. It's all around you. Another thing, very obvious. A lot of things in UK. Wiring, from my perspective as an electrician, a lot of things used to be in pyro cable. Particularly if you live or go to Oxford, go and have a look at the public service buildings, hospitals and things like that, because you'll notice there's a lot of old wiring there that's in pyro. Pyro is absolutely brilliant. It's the best cable you can get out there, arguably. But it's expensive. Now, back in the day when we were a rich country, who cares? Use pyro. If it's the best, use it. But you can actually see, if you go into some parts of different hospitals and public buildings, the newer wiring and everything, and it's shit. It's because they're always just after the cheapest deal and everything. Anyway, that's another story. So yeah, basically we're at a point now where the only way we can keep getting companies to put money into the country is by giving them tax breaks. We're a tax haven for big companies. That's it. Now, obviously, in the past, that's gone relatively unrecognised because reasons, basically, because politicians like to think they're clever, and they'll do these at such a rate that just unnoticeable to majority of people. However, again, because of what's happened with the energy crisis, Rishi Sunak being what he is, which is scum, basically. He doesn't care about English citizens. He only cares about filling his own pockets. Why would he care about us? We're peasants to him. And he's always been rich. His wife is absurdly rich. So yeah, why would he care about us? It's natural. So what he's done is, again, to keep companies investing and coming into Britain, providing jobs for Britain, he's basically just given them all tax breaks. But he is such a coward. He's done such a poor job that he's given them extortionate tax breaks that we have to pay for. And so that's where we're at now. I mean, when you say that this is an energy crisis, it's not. It is a greed crisis. Okay, all it is that Rishi Sunak has pandered to these people, these big companies, and they've said, yeah, all right. Well, if you can sort of tax your people X amount and me not pay that X amount, then yeah, okay, brilliant. And that's how that's worked. So basically, we're picking up the slack for all these greedy, rich companies, the 1%, basically. We're picking up the slack for the 1% so that they come back to England, rather than letting the economy crash like it does need to. And that is actually a good thing, because at that point you sort out your deficit. You can be honest with people and say, look, the economy has crashed. Let's sort this out, rather than keep pretending it's fine, keep dragging it out, letting the deficit keep going, and accumulating more debt. Like I said, that goes up by 5,700 and something pound every second. So yeah, there you go. So where does that leave us? We are absolutely screwed. Even if Rishi Sunak reversed everything tomorrow and said that he was going to tax all these big companies and everything, the damage is already done. They're not going to go back on how much they're charging us and everything now. And the only reason they're charging us that amount is through greed. There's no shortage of energy. There's no shortage of resources or anything. No imminent shortage anyway. Obviously, we are using up our resources, but there's enough to last us for quite a while into the future. So immediately, there's no shortage of any energy or anything. It is literally just greed. So that's why I've come to start referring to it as the greed crisis, because that's all it is. It's just the 1% want more, and they're happy for the rest of the world to pay for that. And that's all there is to it. The UK is particularly screwed because it was screwed before this anyway, and we own nothing. So we don't produce anything. We've got a debt that is a runaway debt. There's no way we can catch up to it now. So yeah, that's where we are. We are absolutely screwed. Obviously, a lot of people are going to disagree with me. A lot of people are going to agree with me. Feel free to leave your thoughts, comments down in the comments section. And, good luck when the people start tearing down your local neighborhood. because that's what's going to happen. Good luck.